try and divert this consignment to any other destination. Of course, the consignment was, as you can see, for Kemri or the Ministry of Health, and that's where those were the people who received this consignment. And in all cases, the consignment was transported to Kemsa stores using Kemsa-owned vehicles or Kemsa-branded vehicles. That's what happened, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, any further question? Honorable Adagala.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. PS Transport, you've given an elaborate way, the way bills and how it was handled. Did you handle the Jackma donations? And if you handled, where are they? Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair. What we've been dealing with here is actually the MA donation, the supplies donated by the MA Foundation. And I believe that this equipment, as I said, was delivered to the designated officials of the Ministry of Health. And at the airport, they were all together with the representatives of Kemri and Kemsa receiving this equipment. As I said, they were all transported to the warehouses of Kemsa for storage on behalf of these the consignees. Thank you.
Honorable Wino.
Thank you, Chair. And today, CAS, thank you for coming with details, including pro forma invoice, which we asked for. Chair, my question here is about the 21 pieces missing. And you did allude to it that is being traced back to Ethiopia. If you could just clarify, you were the clearing, and I think when you were clearing, you noticed that they are missing. Whose responsibility is it? Is it the clearing agency for the government chasing it to know where it is, or is it Kemsa? Because Kemsa, in this case, maybe their responsibility was to pick up and go and store. But we need clarification from the clearing agency, because I think it is you guys who detected that these 21 pieces are missing. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, with your indulgence, Madam Chair, I wish to request the director of the government clearing agency to explain that aspect. I don't believe that this is an isolated incident. I believe it happens all the time. You'll be able to provide more information on that aspect.
That's okay, Director, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Felix Ateng, Director, Government Clearing Agency. Upon receipt of the documents, we verified and we noticed the 21 packages were missing, and we took up this matter with the ministry. We informed them that upon the document we have is showing 21 packages less. So they promised to follow up with the Ministry of Health of Ethiopia, where goods originated from. So I guess maybe they are still in the process of doing that.
So for clarity purposes, that means the disappearance didn't happen when they landed. By the time the goods landed, there were 24 pieces missing, or why is the disconnect between what was given to as a documentation and what you actually received?
You know, we first received the document and then go physically to verify. So when we received the documents and went to physically and verify, we noticed there were 21 packages missing. So we took up the matter with the ministry, who promised to contact where the goods were originating from.
So, Chair, that is could be where the problem is, because if the public really know something is missing, they can easily say it's stolen. And I think this is where, if the ministry is the one really concerned of tracing it, they need to come clear, and the communication must be right. This is where people pick the pieces, multiply them, and it just go viral, and could be something which was left behind. So I think still, as a government clearing agency, I think you have a responsibility here to follow up with the ministry to ensure that that is done.
Honorable Chair, I wish to confirm that I did personally speak with the top officials of the Ministry of Health, including Dr. Ayaga, who is the one responsible for receiving these consignments. And it's been confirmed to me that they're pursuing this matter. They've been promised a response by the Ethiopian authorities, and the matter is still alive as far as they're concerned.
Dr. Nikau?
Thank you, Chair. I came late, so maybe I have to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Nikal, Member of Parliament for Semen, Kisumu County, and a member of this committee. There's something that, as a member of the public, would disturb me from what the director said. I believe it's being followed. We find that from that point, apart from what the CSS said, it looked like it's not missing. We have reported, so somebody is following. I would have thought that actually, if you are clearing things and some have not been received, you still be concerned to know where are they at this point, what is happening. Even what the CSR said does not really satisfy me, because at this point we do not know where actually the loss may have occurred, because the people who gave you the document are saying they sent them. When you check them, they are not there. Isn't that the position? Which does not exonerate even our own airport until it is found where they are. Or somebody says, the people who dispatched said, we dispatched. Then we come back here. But as it is still hanging. So I think that is something that we cannot leave the government clearing agency and the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Health cannot just live like it's going to solve itself. So I think that gap needs to be actually closed, and we are told this is what we have chased, this is where the problem is. That is what will be satisfying. Two, Chair, maybe I missed yesterday's meeting. Me and many members of the public know that Jack Ma donations came from China. But what we are seeing and what we are being told is everything originated from Ethiopia. It would also be useful information for us. The link from where is Jack Ma and where is he buying these things from, and how do they get to Ethiopia before they get to us? That is also, I'm left without that. That is why somebody was saying, I think my colleague asked, where are the Jack Ma donations? Because when you look at the document, you start from Ethiopia, but you do not see how the document leaves Jack Ma's organization and gets to Ethiopia. I think it would also be important for us to know that. If you are pessimistic, you can also say, even between Jack Ma and Ethiopia, there may be a discrepancy. So we also need to know that, to get that information, Chair.
Thank you. I think,
Can I?
yes.
Yes, Madam Chair, I hear the sentiments being expressed. in respect 21 packages which were short delivered. And I want to undertake before this House that we will continue to pursue this matter in conjunction with the Ministry of Health to ensure that the short delivered packages are ultimately, dispatched to us. The second point is in respect to why this consignment was sent to Ethiopia. I know the Honorable member was not here yesterday, but we wish to inform him that what we received from the Jack Ma Foundation was part of a consignment delivered through the African Union for several countries in the African continent. And the donors decided to dispatch this equipment through Ethiopia. At that time, in fact, it was only Ethiopian Airlines that was operating between Africa and China. So they decided to send this through Ethiopian Airlines to the Ministry of Health, Ethiopia, on behalf, where it was received on behalf of the AU, and then each country received its share from that distribution.
Yeah, I was not here, but again, as a Kenyan, how would I know that what Jack Ma gave to Ethiopia, and when it was shared, we received our correct share? That documentation must be there from when Jack Ma, whether he gave money and somebody bought. We must have that documentation. This is what Jack Ma brought to AU or in Ethiopia, and when Ethiopia was distributing, Kenya was entitled to this, and this is now what is in the consignment that we are getting as the airway bill. I don't know whether you will agree with me that there is still a gap behind in our link with Jack Ma, unless it is somewhere, or maybe it was said yesterday. You see, if you send a middle person, you must make sure the middle person has given you what you are given. Thank you, Chair.
We can take the last questions. Professor, then we go to Captain Rueda, and then I'll go to Honorable Koros. Professor, I thought you indicated you wanted to ask a question.
I did. I was trying to get some clauses on this, but thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, CS and your team, for your presentations on that. And I am really happy that you're here on behalf of the Cabinet Secretary. Definitely Article 95(2) of the Constitution puts the Parliament, the executive, to account or accountability. And therefore, that is the reason as to why we wanted the Minister to be here, but we pray for his quick recovery. However, it is also important that the ruling by the Speaker in the House on communication number 57 of 2019 indicates that, which says on the accountability of the executive to the Parliament and the place of chief administrative secretaries in responding to questions in the National Assembly, puts forward and rules, according to the Speaker's communication on that day, which I was fortunate that I was here, indicates that the Cabinet Secretary will take full responsibility for all responses that you have personally undertaken on his behalf. And therefore that must be in records in the Hansard, and that must be in records in this committee, that you will be undertaking that responsibility, he will be undertaking that responsibility, that any responses that you do to us. This is House of Records, this is House of Directives, and this is a house of law. Thank you very much. Your report will definitely be presented on the floor of this House as per the discussions and all the information you have given us, and we will examine each and every into scrutiny. My questions here, that was just a point of information. My questions is described in a clear, detailed discussion of the actual responsibility and the role of the Transport Ministry on the issues of the donations of Jack Ma Foundation. That's one question. Has there been any correspondence, Bwana CS, between your office or the Office of the Cabinet Secretary and Jack Ma Foundation after the scandal reports? If any, what was it? And can you present either in document form or in presentation to this committee? The other question is, what efforts has the ministry done to clear its name and how after the scandal has been raised, or information about the scandal, either in media or in the executive order of the president, which we remain guided on, and we are quite sure that time is ticking for the 3 weeks the president has given an executive directive to make sure that this scandal of COVID-19 is handled, including Kemsa and the Jack Ma Foundation scandal one. I think I will stop there, and I have said sufficiency of the queries that remains, but we really want to understand exactly how the ministry has handled the scandal.
Thank you, Captain Rueda.
Swali langu ni, tumesema kuna zile ambazo zimepotea. Je, thamani yake ni ngapi? Bei yake, yani tujue tumekosa hizo, tumekosa pesa ngapi. Ya pili ni pahali gani zilipotea. Maanake tunajua mzigo ukija unakuwa umefungwa vizuri, itakuwaje sasa ipotee hivyo hivyo? Hata sisi tukisafiri, mzigo ukienda ukiona bagi yako pengine kitu kimepungua, kuna ile una trace, unajua ilipotelea wapi. Sasa paka sasa sijaelewa ilipotelea wapi. Ilipotelewa ikifunguliwa hapa Kenya airport, au kwa ministry, au ni Ethiopia airport, au ni kutoka huko kwao ministry yao kabla hajapelekwa airport? Asante.
Thank you, and maybe you'll add the content on the 21 pieces missing, what was meant to be inside the packages. Honorable Smith, the other question you wanted to ask? Okay. Honorable Koros? Okay, thank you. CS, you can respond.
Yes. First, I want to start with the question raised by Dr. Nyikao, member for SEME. How do we know that what we received was actually what was intended by the Jack Ma Foundation? It's very difficult to know, because what we received was actually a consignment intended for either KEMRI or Ministry of Health. And I want to believe that this was packed from China in the manner in which it was received at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. If, however, there was any repackaging in Addis Ababa, I will not be able to say so, but I want to believe, Madam Chair, that this, we received what we received in the manner in which it was packaged at source that's from China. So it's very difficult to know, to answer that question I really don't, I can't say that that's what Jack Ma intended to donate to Kenya, but I want to believe that the consignment arrived here in the manner in which it was dispatched from China. On the second question by the member.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
What is out of order?
Yes, Madam Chair, is it in order for the CAS to claim that they received the items in the manner that it had been released by Jack Ma from China, yet it is in public domain and from their communication that all the products from Jack Ma were transported to Addis Ababa, African Center for Disease under the African Union. And it appears that it was at the volition of African Union, the Center of African Disease, to distribute those items. How did they distribute those items before even opening? How did they keep an inventory of the items that were released from China? So I think it is fair enough to say that these things the government of Kenya received from Ethiopia. And then two, from the document that you've tabled here, there is nowhere where it indicates China. It talks about Ethiopia. So the gray area here is the consignment that it got lost, the 21 packs, it got lost in Ethiopia. Those are the issues that you've raised here. And that, I think that is, you are not in order. It's not in order for you to tell us that these things you received as it was from China. And in fact, that's my point of clarification that I wanted you to seek, to clarify. And it will go to public. That the government of Kenya never received the Jack Ma Foundation items from China directly. It went to African Center of Disease. Now, even us now, we have a concern to ask the African Center of Disease, did we get our right share? Is there a communication from Jack Ma to government of Kenya saying that you are going to receive this number of items? Now, then we can counter-check with African Union or the Center of Disease, because they might have given out our items, and that's why we have all these gray issues arising from how much the government received. Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I hear the argument by Honorable Kutun, but in my earlier remarks, I just said I believed that what we received was in the form in which it was consigned from China. And I said, I am not in a position to say whether there was any repackaging in Addis Ababa. So this is something that is open to interpretation, but I don't know what conclusion we will reach. I wanted to go to the second question regarding whether we engaged in any correspondence with the Jack Ma Foundation. And I want to say that as a ministry, we did not. We have not engaged in any correspondence with Jack Ma donation. And further that as a ministry, I think the honorable member from Wajir wanted to know what we have done in the face of this scandal as a ministry. And they said, really, we have heard about all these things being said in the public domain, but there was nothing we could do about it. We were waiting for a forum of this kind to be able to state our position, the role we played as a ministry, and the facts that I have outlined from yesterday's response and this morning. That's really
what is out of order, Honorable Professor?
Chair, I do acknowledge the efforts of the CAS to tell us about what they have done and what they have not done about handling scandal in a very important and powerful ministry. It is so unfortunate, especially when dealing with international donations and the likes. If you come and sit here and tell us if you come and sit here and tell us that there was nothing you could do about it, it is utter shame on the ministry. You should have communication department, a department that takes care of all matters to be communicated to public and to the government, and to advise the president on how these matters have been done. You must have let down the president and the people of Kenya in that matter. I would say, if you have come to say that there was nothing you could do about it, I am sorry. I'm not taking that answer. And I will take it forward into the report to show the failures of the ministry in communicating what they have seen on that. And I will stand on that.
Maybe, members, I would like to guide. There's a document yesterday we received from the Ministry of Health. And from that document, I was just trying to go through it. There is clear communication between the Ministry of Health and Ethiopia. And it seems, and maybe the CS will correct me, that the role of the Ministry of Transport was to clear and report to the Ministry of Health what was missing, and then the Ministry of Health to follow up. I think this is something we need to follow up with our mother ministry. But I'll refer members to this documentation that we received yesterday from the Ministry on JACMA, and I can see clear communication. Maybe the failure on the part of the Ministry of Transport is to have proper documentation, because I'm also struggling with what you have brought to try and find out what is where. I was trying to even give Dr. Nikal some documentation, but from this folder, I think members will have to look at it again. The one we received from the Ministry of Health, it seems there was a lot of communication between Tanzania, Ethiopia, and Kenya. And there's a letter, I think this was Annex 1, that from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ethiopia, and to our embassy in Ethiopia, saying they have received, in regard, the ministry once again appreciating their support, we will kindly inform the list of donations, and they have given the list of what was expected. So members, we might need to refer back to this folder that we received from the Ministry of Health.
Thank you for your guidance, Chair. But we cannot condone excuses of this team again. We gave them excuse yesterday. We cannot condone again for them not to bring orderly documents. We cannot. This is not right. This is a very honorable committee. And you're not primary school people. You're senior people, professionals. You cannot come with documents haphazardly, documents that are disorderly. We will not accept that. I will even suggest that this meeting stopped. If that is the case, we cannot be played around here like children. We are honorable members here who are here doing work that is based on timeline. The president wanted it within 21 days. I'm not going to accept this in my capacity.
Madam Chair.
Yes, CS, and maybe as you also respond to that, just clarify to us what was missing, the 21 pieces. What was missing?
Yes, Madam Chair. I want to say, for example, that I am disadvantaged to the extent that I don't have the copies which you've just read from the Ministry of Health. I have not had the opportunity to get access to those documents, and therefore I am not, all I know is that I have been in touch with them, and they have confirmed that they are pursuing this question of the 21 packages that were short delivered. The second point, I am not very sure that I understand why the honorable member from Wajir is so upset, is so frustrated. I cannot understand.
No documents to deal with you. Simple.
I think
Chair.
I think we have,
Let the CS finish. Honorable Koros, I'll give you a chance. Let the CS finish with the issues that were raised, and then we can discuss this matter. We have members, we have a long day today, so CS,
Yeah,
just
Madam
make your
Chair.
conclusion.
I have had the opportunity of being a member of this House, this Parliament, for 25 years. And I never saw opportunities where people, honorable members would be so upset if you need information, raise that information, we'll try and look it for you. But, you know, to say we don't know what we are doing in the ministry, I think is sensationalizing a matter that shouldn't. I think as a ministry, our role was simply to clear this equipment on behalf of government institutions, namely Ministry of Health and KEMRI. That was our role. And we received this consignment. There was a short delivery of 25 packages. As I've said, we reported this to the Ministry of Health. They are pursuing it with the consignor, the people who consigned these, who dispatched this equipment from Addis Ababa. There is nothing more we can do at this stage. As to the value of the 21 missing packages, I'm not in a position to say that because we didn't even know what that 21 packages contained, what was comprised in those 21 packages. And so I want to assure the honorable member, we prepared, that's our job, to provide this House with any information the House wants. And we are prepared, we have always been willing to do so, and we have cooperated with this committee and other committees of Parliament. And so, you know, I don't know why we, you know, at the conclusion of a matter like this, why we should demonstrate frustration and a lack of appreciation for each other.
I think we are fine unless there's something that would want further clarification or
Chair, point of order.
PS.
If you can allow the principal secretary in my ministry, who has been the person on the ground in respect to this matter, to say something.
1 minute, all Captain. PS.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, as indicated, the only aspect of this transaction that the ministry was dealing with was the clearance aspect. And this is for only one reason, Chair. The fact that for that time, the government clearing agent was administratively under the Ministry of Transport. Because, Chair, what happens is that the agency deals directly with the client. And in this case, the client is the Ministry of Health, and any other communications with the source are then supposed to be between the Ministry of Health and the source, and not with the Ministry of Transport. So that aspect for us is purely just because the agency was placed under us for 1 year, because for that 1 year, they were under the budget of the State Department for Transport. The agency is now under the National Treasury. So, Chair, is purely the aspect of the agency where it was placed, but the agency deals directly with the client. And the client was the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Health was the one which was then dealing with all other matters of the transaction. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that clarification. Captain Rueda and Director, because you are the clearing agent, did you know what was meant to come, the 21 pieces? Did you know I'm very sure within the landing bill there was the content on what you're expecting. Do you have that information, Captain? Go ahead.
Okay. Chair, my question was not answered, the last question. I asked, is there any tracing mechanism? I'm sure this is not the first one that you don't get complete. But there must be a mechanism to trace. Is it missing from the airport or the airline? Let's say the Ethiopian airline. Were they given exact what you got? Just tell us if it is missing from Ethiopia airport, from the airline, or from Nairobi, or from where it comes from. That is my question. I'm sure there must be a mechanism to trace if
You
there's
know-
something is missing.
Yes, so you know what was loaded, what you received. I think it's clear for, and again, I'll direct the same question to the director.
Thank you, Madam.
Yes, Madam Chair. The total of what we were supposed to receive was 697 packages. But when that consignment arrived at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, we received 21 packages less. So the 21 packages never arrived in Kenya. They never arrived at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. So that shortfall was in Ethiopia, not here. And as I said, I just received confirmation from the top officials of the Ministry of Health. They are in contact. In fact, even the chair just read a letter from the ministry confirming that they're pursuing this matter with the people who consigned this from Addis Ababa. So we hope that this is not the end of the matter. We will eventually receive these 21 packages.
Point of order, Chair.
Chair.
Point of order, Chair.
What is out of order?
Point of order, Chair.
I've asked what is out of order,
Just,
Honorable
I
Koros.
want to get some clarification on the same, Chair.
So there's nothing out of order, just one clarification, okay? So you can go ahead and make clarification.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Bwana CS, you said the 21 cartons you didn't receive. What could be the worth value of those cartons you didn't receive? Oh, and what was inside?
Captain, what is it?
Okay, now we know the 21 missing is not from Kenya. But now we want to know, is it the airport or the airline or the ministry from Ethiopia? Because there must be a delivery note to the airline. When you transport, there must be a delivery note. Did the airline received what we were supposed to get so that we can know the 21 pieces missed from the airline?
That is correct. Ethiopian Airlines did not deliver the 21 packages. And that's what is being pursued now.
So you're saying it's Ethiopian Airline?
Correct.
So they should pay.
Did the Ethiopian airline receive the packages?
Members, since we said the matter is with the Ministry of Health, I would allow we rest this matter. We will pursue through our mother ministry, which is Ministry of Health, to find out whether it's African Union that didn't deliver to the airline. I think this is something we can actually follow up. Because the ministry, clearly they said we were clearing on behalf, and that because the agency is under, at that time, I understand now it's not under you again, it's under Treasury now, was under Ministry of Transport. And that's why I was waiting to hear from the director, and it has been confirmed by the CS that they never received, and the airline didn't deliver. I think we can now pursue from our mother ministry to find out. Is it that what had been promised, the African Union didn't give the whole entire, or something got lost between now the African Union and the airline? I think that's one we can pursue further.
Chair, there's still a link. This thing must start from Jack Ma. To edge our agent, we must know what is it Jack Ma intended to deliver to Africa. I've seen some documents which have not been summarized where they are saying this country, this country. So Jack Ma intended to deliver this to Africa. It is going through Ethiopian Ministry of Health. Somebody must be buying them there. And that person, then they must be packaged. Then they are taken to Ethiopian Airlines. So what we need to do, and I think we can't just say the Ministry of Health alone, it will take all of them, all the way up to Ethiopia, back to Jack Ma. And then that is where we'll find. So I think as a team, they should work together and start this thing all the way from Jack Ma said, I'll give this. And he seemed to also be working with some agency according to those documents. And this is what was to go to this. Because several values are being given. Sometimes with those documents, you see the amount, what they are, and then you see what are the actual items. So we will need a complete information saying the amount was this, the items were this, they cost this much, and then add up to that amount. Now, when they have changed into items, then we want to know who was buying them for Jack Ma and how much did he buy. He delivered them to Ethiopian Ministry of Health or that center. Now somebody must have packaged them from that center to Ethiopian Airlines. Then Ethiopian Airlines comes here and says, this is what's in our package. When you are counting, you find 21 missing. That, in my mind, is what the two ministries really still owe us.
I think I want to give the last comment to Honorable Dagala so that we can finalize on this matter.
Well, Chair, I just wanted to, it's just a concern because if these things, there is a public outcry of the Jack Ma, the Jack Ma donations going astray, the way the Honorable Christopher Bure has said, how sure is he those packages got lost in Ethiopia? And also, he should also share to us, here he's talking of the government agency that was clearing this luggage from Ethiopia to Kenya here. Can he shed light on this Pivotech company? What role did it play at this particular time of clearing this?
Which company again?
Pivotech company.
Pivotech?
Yeah,
okay.
Some company, sort of. He should also be able to tell us what role they played. Because it seems there's something sinister that we are not being told here. A loss of 21 packages is not just a symbol, one package. If it is one package, that one can be. But 21, Chair, there is something amiss somewhere that this committee should be told for the Kenyans also to know what became of these donations. Thank you.
Okay. CS?
Madam Chair, I am not very sure that I heard the name of this company that the honorable member is talking about.
I think just for clarity, was there any other company that was involved in clearing?
No.
Apart from the government agency?
No.
That should be the question.
For this particular consignment, no private clearing agent was engaged, and this consignment was exclusively cleared by the government clearing agent. I also want to say further, in the light of some of the comments made here by honorable members. Madam Chair, as I said, our role at the time was to facilitate clearance of the items that arrived at the airport. And our involvement was purely because the government clearing agent at the time was administratively under the Ministry of Transport, as explained by the PS. However, there have been recent changes. The government clearing agent is now it's been placed under the national government, and therefore we have no role over this matter. And pursuing the question honorable member for SEME raised, I wish to request that this matter be pursued directly with the Ministry of Health so that the Ministry of Health can help in clarifying whether what we received was actually what Jack Ma Foundation intended for Kenya. That can only be done through communication with the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in conjunction with the sister ministries in Ethiopia and so on.
Honorable, let me just give this to Honorable Joyce because she has not spoken to this matter.
Thank you, Chair. I think I got I got a clear message from the PS. And according to me, I think the Ministry of Transport did its part because the role they had was to clear, and they also identified the missing items given the way bill, because it's the way bill that gives those details. The way bill is usually sent by the freight forwarder, which in this case could be either the AU or the origin, that's Jakma. So I think our questions will largely lie on the Ministry of Health, which is the client that is supposed to have communicated with the donor and known the details, looking at the customs packing list, looking at the way bill, the dispatch note, the delivery note. So all those things, I think from where I sit, I think the Ministry of Transport did its part by clearing what was sent and identifying what was missing. So the question is, how do we follow up on the missing items? And that goes back to the ministry. Thank you, Chair.
Chair. I have something to say.
Yes.
Mimi naona tusitoe majukumu kwa Ministry of Transport. Ni jukumu lao kuleta mzigo. Tegemea kule walipata mzigo size gani. Na swali lingine ni kwamba huu mzigo ukiletwa, wengine wanaika insurance. Huu mzigo, was it insured? Manake mzigo kama huo unafaa kuwa insured. Was it insured? If it was insured, ni kampuni gani? Manake kama umekuwa insured, hiyo insurance inafaa kulipa hii mzigo.
I think, Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, you need to clear there so that we can move on.
And I want on the question raised. We were not provided with insurance certificates, and in any case, if they had, then that should have been Jakma's obligation.
Question is, because I asked what value you could not, you said you are not in a position
To establish.
Now, to establish.
Yeah.
So it was not insured, you are telling us.
No, I'm
So
saying we were not handed over insurance documents of the consignment. That's what I've said.
Ndio mimi nilikuwa nasema kwa hii committee, mzigo kama hii sisi kwa ministry inafaa waweke insurance ikiletwa. Ikipotea ifai kulipwa. Kwa sababu mzigo mwanzo value hamjatuambia. Mzigo pesa mingi kisha msiweke insurance. Ikipotea sasa inakuwa hivi. Tafuteni njia ya namna mkileta mzigo aina yote wa huo lazima ukue na insurance.
Director, you have something to say?
Yes.
Proceed.
Yeah, instances where things are pushed to you, you don't have control on how to process them. So it becomes a bit challenging. The best we could do was to go back to the vessel that carried the items, which we did, and they confirmed to us that they didn't, the 21 packages never landed.
Thank you. I think for the purposes of us to proceed, honorable members, I'd just like that we direct, and I want the clerk to note that we, on our deliberations on this matter, will need to refer to the document were given by Ministry of Health yesterday, which is the letter of donation intent. And this was letter written to Ethiopian Public Health Institute from Jakma. And just for the purpose of clarification, it said in the, it's an appeal in order to improve people affected by COVID. And they have said, I just want to read the last bit. There is a value to come through Ethiopian Public Health Institute. These goods will be sent to Ethiopia Public Health Institute for prevention of and control of COVID. And then they go ahead to say the quality is as per indicated by the Ethiopian Public Health. That's the first one. I think Annex 1, I just want the Secretariat to note. Then there's an annex, there's also the letter Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is addressed to it's addressed to the Embassy of the Republic of Kenya in Addis Ababa. And then it has the honor to inform the letter that, with further reference to the note verbal, the one that I've just read there, the second round of donations from Haiti Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Jack Ma initiative to reverse COVID-19 pandemic from Africa is arriving in Addis Ababa soon. And then they go ahead and say, in this regard, once again, as we appreciate the support, they say there will be donations, ventilation machines, medical disposal, and then they go ahead. And then say the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia avails itself in this opportunity to renew the Embassy of the Republic of Kenya the assurance of its highest consideration. Then from there is also an attachment. I just want for the Secretariat to note on what was to be given. There's a list. Detection kit, 96, there were 210, and the numbers. Lab tests, ventilators, infrared thermometers, 81. I think these are very important documents, civilian N95 mask, and the list goes on. And finally, there's also a document showing all African countries and how the distribution was done. And I can see Kenya there, so that then we can confirm the numbers. I can see the numbers were almost the same to all African countries. And then from Algeria all the way, there's a list which is important that Secretary, as you note, Annex number 3, so that we are able to follow as a committee when we sit, and then we'll be able to find out if there are any gaps. So, CS, do you have anything else to add or any concluding remarks?
Yes. Yes, Honorable Chair.
Chair, is it important to seek clarification on the document so that when you're responding? Madam Chair, I've just heard you saying Ethiopian Public Health Institute.
Yes.
And then we have got African Center for Disease Control. You know, here we have communication from the Ethiopian government. That is Ethiopian Public Health Institute, to the government of Kenya, indicating the quantity and the number of items that are going to be supplied. Here, the government of Kenya is receiving items from Ethiopia, but African Center for Disease Control. So, is there confusion on these institutions? The government of Ethiopia and Center for Disease, which is under African Union. And as I know, African Union, Ethiopia has no control under African Union. So at what point did Ethiopia get involved on this issue of Jack Ma? That is a clarification that I will want to seek. And to the director, one of the reasons Jack Ma decided to send items to Ethiopia was, quote unquote, that there was some corruption, that it will get lost in African countries, including Kenya. But today you are here telling us that the Jack Ma donations got lost in Ethiopia. So is it now confirmed that there is corruption also in Ethiopia, where the African items got lost from Jack Ma? And Jack Ma needs to be advised that there in the future, if you have to send any donation to Africa, send it to the respective countries, not Ethiopia. Thank you.
Chair, please, I have something to say.
Captain, I'll just give you 30 seconds because
Yes,
time is not on our side. We have people waiting, and we also will be sitting here. We don't want again to finish like yesterday, very late.
Sawa.
Yeah.
Chair, hapa nimeona kuna hatari kubwa. Ni lazima wizara ituambie kama hakuna sheria tutunge sheria. Manake vile mnasema 21 imepotea, je kama ndege ilianguka, huo mzigo wote ungekuwa umeenda hivyo? Je kama mnapeleka na meli mzigo wa pesa nyingi ukiwa umepotea, so inamaanisha hamuna njia za kufuatilizia. So mimi nasema hii mambo insurance ni muhimu. Kama itabidi sheria hakuna, tutunge sheria, mzigo wote wa serikali unaokuja uwe umewekwa insurance. Manake ni hatari, itakuwa pengine pesa bilioni nyingi na tuambiwe meli imezama, kisha itakuwa imeenda hivyo hivyo, tutakuwa hatuna njia za kuclaim. Hii kama alikuwa mmeweka insurance, I'm sure muna hiyo sheria ya kuweka insurance. Tachukuaje mzigo tu mtume hivi bila insurance? Tafadhali nataka kujua kama hakuna sheria hiyo, basi sisi tutunge sheria, manake ni hatari. Inaweza wekwa bilioni kadhaa kwenye meli, kisha meli izame, pengine hata meli imezama na hakuna hizo bilioni hapo ndani. Kisha tutaenda vipi?
Sawa, tosha. Ya tosha sasa. CS, let me allow to do your conclusion.
Yes.
We need to conclude this matter.
Yes, Madam Chair. I know we've been discussing this for a long time. Madam Chair, my Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development and Public Works had only one role in this matter: to clear the goods that arrived at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And we were involved merely because administratively the ministry was in charge of the agency, the government agency that is responsible for clearing goods, namely the government clearing agent. That was administratively under the Ministry of Transport at the time. And I was going to make one request, that all this is really a matter for the Ministry of Health in conjunction with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to clarify all the issues about this donation in response to some of the questions that have been raised here by members. And I wish to make a request that in the light of the changes that have recently taken place, where even the government clearing agent has been moved from the Ministry of Transport to the National Treasury, really as a ministry, as the Ministry of Transport, we have no standing in these matters anymore, and I wish to request that we be allowed to deal with the mandate placed in our hands apart from this particular one. And therefore, I wish to request that this matter is pursued with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to be able to provide answers for the various questions which have been raised by members here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CS and PS and your team. You may take leave now. We will follow this matter. Asanteni sana. I would request the Sergeant at Arms to allow the second group to come in, the group from Kemsa and also the suspended officials, and also for sanitizing the areas where those people are seated. Sergeant at Arms, please be fast. Yodi, why is Muridi? Let's have order. Honorable members, I want to call the meeting to order. And since we had prayed, we will go straight to introduction. I'm very sure we have the team from Kemsa. I can see the chair. And I just want to confirm that we have Dr. Manjari. Where's Mr. Eliud Mureithi? And Charles Juma? Okay, and we are ready to proceed. Honorable members, I would like we start with the introduction. We'll start from my right, Honorable Joyce Emaniko.
Joyce Emaniko, MP for Turkana County and a member of this committee. Thank you.
James Nikal, Member of Parliament for Seme constituency in Kisumu County and a member of this committee.
Honorable Sally, your microphone. Maybe you can move. There's one behind you. Professor?
Professor Mahmoud Sheikh, Member of Parliament for Wajir South and a member of the Health Committee. Thank you.
Captain Roida Mohammed, County Women MP, Lamu, member of this committee.
David Eseli Simiyu, member for Tongaren.
I'd advise maybe you sit there or they fix your microphone, Dr. Eseli. Yeah.
Gabriel Tongoyo, MP for Narok West and a member of Health Committee. Thank you.
Sangaret Koros, member of Parliament, Sigawet Soin, and member of Health Committee.
Good morning. Adagala Beatrice, woman MP, Vihiga County, and a member of this committee.
Honorable Joshua Kutunyi, MP Cherangan, Vice Chair, Health Committee.
And I'm Sabina Chege, member for Muranga, and I chair the Health Committee of the National Assembly. I request the chair to introduce yourself and your team.
Kembi Getura, Chairman Kemsa.
Edward Njoroge, Acting CEO, Kemsa.
Josephat Mbuva, alternate for the PS Minister of Health in the Kemsa Bund.
Eliud Mureithi, Director Commercial Services, Kemsa.
Charles Juma, Director Procurement.
Dr. Jonah Manjari, CEO Kemsa, suspended.
Oiganjo Karanja, Director Finance Strategy, Kemsa.
Joy Rigesuka, member of the board.
Dr. George Walukana, Acting Director Commercial Services, Kemsa.
Edward Biluma, Acting Director Procurement.
Do we have anybody else who have not introduced themselves? Did you do your introduction? Okay. I would like, as we proceed, if there's any documents to be tabled before the committee, you can approach Mr. Muyodi, who is in charge of our secretariat, and give us the documentation. I would like we start with the suspended officials before we come to the submission by the board, because there are some issues that might be arise and the board would also need to address. And we have Dr. John Manjari as a person who was the CEO. We have Mr. Eliud Mureithi and Charles Juma. I would want to start with Dr. Manjari. I just want, from the letter we give to this committee, you clearly tell this committee the role you played in procurement of COVID-19 related items and the role you played in the processing of all COVID-19 supplies, donations. And at the same time, would be interested to know the expenditure by the time you're being suspended, and who approved for that expenditure. I would also want to know whether you did any survey to advise you on the expenditure taken on behalf of Kemsa. And you'll also tell us the turnover in the last 4 years, if you have, what was the value of reserves as per 30th June 2019. I'll start with Dr. Manjari.
So, thank you, Chair. I would wish to state that during the COVID period, we did various procurements for the supplies that were needed during that period, the pandemic. And I play the role as a CEO where I do the day-to-day running of the authority. And we work as a team where when we did get the advisory that we need to be prepared for the COVID pandemic, we did have several meetings as management, and we came up with the specifications for the items that were needed at that time. We did reverse procurement as provided for under Section 69 of Public Procurement and Disposal Act 2015, 2, where it is provided for reverse procurement or retrospective procurement, and also as guided by Section 103 of the Procurement Act. We will give more elaboration on those two provisions of the Act. At the time of the declaration of the pandemic, as you are aware, Kemsa had already passed its budget for 2019-2020, and by March 2020, when the pandemic was declared, there wasn't per se a budget in Kemsa for the procurement of the COVID items, as it was towards the third quarter, the end of the third quarter of the financial year. So we relied on the assumption that it being a pandemic, we'll be able to access funds from the emergency funds that are provided for by the government and from the donors that were declared interest that they'll be providing us with budgets, from the MOH, or Minister of Health, and subsequently from the reserves that we have in Kemsa. We did indeed do a market survey. As for all the procurements that we do under direct procurements, all open procurements. In March and April, there was lockdown in China and India, where most of these products come from, and also the US government indeed did what we call barring or banning any exportation of ventilators and 3M products like N95. So the demand was very high and the supplies were very limited, and we did have supplies prices that were quite high at that time. Will be through the office of the acting CEO. I couldn't get access to some of the documents, but he has a price list of how those products were costing at that time. The turnover for the last 4 years, the director finance and strategy has that table of the turnover for the last 4 years. But I would wish to say, for the Kemsa capital, we have grown from 2 billion to 4.2 billion or thereabout during my tenure, showing an upward increase of the revenue at Kemsa, or the reserves as Kemsa. The finance director will give the details of that. It is my submission that we did this procurement during very hard times, and we are reminded that as we do this, there was a panic in the country and hard decisions had to be made. And it is in view that as we make small decisions in life, we are expected to use our heads. But as we make very hard and big decisions, we use our hearts. It is for the passion I have for this industry and for the healthcare workers, the frontline healthcare workers. I'm one of them. I'm a medical doctor who has served for more than 23 years. And I really needed to protect them and make sure that they did not have any infections that we had seen happening in other countries. And the modeling that had been done at that time, we had been shown that there would be around 10,000 COVID cases by end of April. It didn't happen, but as you know, as of now, we have over 34,000 cases and more than 19,000 active cases, meaning we need to continue giving more support to the healthcare workers. Finally, Madam Chair, I would wish to refer to the Kemsa Act, where the budget, we are told, or the utilization of the Kemsa funds in section 14(3), unless Treasury otherwise directs, the balance of the funds of the authority at the end of the financial year shall be retained for the purpose of which the authority is established. Kemsa mandate is given in the Act and is to procure, warehouse, and distribute health products and technologies to all public health facilities. And finally, Madam Chair, in the same Act, if you may allow me to read, the manner of the discharge of Kemsa functions, we are reminded that we need to have products that are of high efficacy, safety, quality, and affordability of the health products and technologies. And I wish to thank the Department of Quality Assurance for making sure that Kenya and indeed Kemsa did not have any substandard health products and technologies, including the PPEs. And we did reject quite a number of products that came our way. We are also reminded that we have to observe a steady supply of drugs and medical supplies to the public health facilities in this country. Madam Chair, the final function in a manner that we are supposed to discharge our functions, we have been told to maintain and sustain strategic reserve of essential medicines and medical commodities. It is to the assurance of this committee that we need to assure that Kenya, and indeed Kemsa, is ready with health products and technologies. For the first time, we are to meet our clarion call of having 100% order fill rate for PPEs. At this time, we have products and technologies that can last this country for a period of more than 6 months. It is my humble submission that all these procurements we did with our eyes open, with a passion in our hearts for the safety of the healthcare workers as they did their duty. Madam Chair, the hedgehog concept tells us that you need to have passion. You need to look at what is there to be referred to, and at this time maintain very good resources, and we have maintained our culture at Kemsa of procuring what is required. Madam Chair, I submit, and I'm ready and available to answer any question that the members may wish to get clarification from myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Since you've used some term reverse procurement, I would want to give the opportunity to Juma to just explain to this committee the kind of procurement. There have been several issues that the CEO has said. It was emergency, you referred to the act, all those things. Could you just take through this committee, what is that reverse procurement that you did? And maybe as a procurement officer, the CEO has said you had several meetings. So did that meeting include the board to make the decision on what was to be procured? And I've also seen we have the representative of the PS. So was a representative of the PS in the board also part of the team that was making decisions on procurement?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and the members. I'll be able to take the members through the requirements of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. My role in this procurement of COVID items is to ensure that we comply to the requirements of the law. And when COVID came on board, we noted that this was a procurement which came at a time when we could not be able to do the ordinary procurement, which is do advertise, wait for the bids to be submitted within a specific timeline, and carry out evaluation, and notify, and wait for 14 days, and then sign the contract within 21 days. And therefore, the procurement of COVID items was undertaken on an emergency basis by way of direct procurement, in line with the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act 2015, Section 103, 2, B and C, and Section 69.
Audio and ICT, could you kindly just fix whatever is making that noise? We need to clarity when the presentations are being done. If the IT person can hear me, you need to fix that microphone. Otherwise, we will see like there is sabotage in this presentation.